It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the Lamar Thomas Show, featuring the greatest receiver in the history of college football. Just ask them, Lamar Thomas.
I was born in Ocala, Florida. I moved to Gainesville to go to high school. Been recruited probably since the 9th grade, illegally, I might add, by the University of Florida. I still can remember Coach Solinger, Don Solinger, coming out to our practice one day. Here it is, this guy comes out in the University of Miami jacket, and I said, I can't believe that's Miami out here. And, you know, I wanted to go up and say, hey, I'm Lamar Thomas. And actually, I did walk up to him and I said, hey, Coach, I'm Lamar Thomas. And he said, I know. And that was the start of my relationship with the University of Miami.
Patton, another good block, and Toretto lays it out. Touchdown, Miami.
You come down here, you'll be on TV every weekend, dominating. I thought about it. I said, man, where do I sign? My mom, on Saturday mornings, I would wake up and she'd be holding my hand. I thought she was the weirdest lady in the world. But she was holding my hands and she would be rubbing them and saying, one day these hands are gonna make you a lot of money. She was smart.
So now, here he is, the great one, along with co-host Gary Ferman of CaneSport.com, Lamar Thomas.
What is going on, Lamar Thomas? Man,
hey, I feel like Santa Claus.
I'm watching those clips in the show open, and I'm thinking, man, that looks like the cow game. Like, except we got the right jerseys on in this one. Let's welcome everybody right off the top here to this week's edition of the Lamar Thomas Show, presented by CaneSport, your ultimate authority in University of Miami merchandise. You see LT sporting the ski cap there because it's going to be a little chilly for those Canes fans traveling up to Louisville. But Saturday, it won't be chilly Saturday at noon, though, Lamar. Looking like it'll be right around 70 degrees for kickoff. Perfect football weather. No rain in the forecast right now. And this is a big one coming up this week.
Oh, it's a huge one. It's a huge game for the University of Miami and for Louisville, too. You know, two programs that are high expectations this year. Louisville, a little under the radar a little bit, but they've always had, we'll talk about it later on in the show, a great South Florida connection. Yes. So this is almost like a rivalry game in a way, you know, and it goes back to from the Charlie Strong days on to now, you know. So a lot of familiar faces, as we know. So this is going to be a good game, a great game, and it's whatever team can put the most points up will definitely win this game. And I look for some fireworks.
Yeah, they made the over-under in Vegas 61 for this game. That means they're expecting a lot of offense, and I think astutely so. I mean, I'm nervous about this game. I'm not going to lie. I look at what Louisville does the best, and it matches up identical to what Miami appears to do the worst, which is defend the passing game. And Jeff Brom, you coached them at Western Kentucky. You know him well. You'll tell us more about it here as we go forward in the show. He's one of the better offensive coaches in the country. And, you know that he has had this game circled the entire offseason, that he has watched endless film of Lance Guidry's defense, and he is going to have a good game plan. I mean, let's give him credit. You know, he is the likelihood that he's going to have a very good game plan is very high, in my opinion. So this will be, Lamar, as crazy as those last couple games were, against Virginia Tech and Cal. I still say this is Miami's toughest challenge of the season.
Yeah, as I talked about, Gary, the schedule. I said in the beginning, I thought it set up well. It keeps getting better and better. The challenges. We start off, Florida. It was the first game of the year. I think they are a better team than we put a whipping on them. I think they are a better team. Obviously now with Mertz being down, Lagway will be in there. But at the schedule, FAMU, Ball State, all those teams, it kept getting tough. Virginia Tech and then Cal, and this is going to be a tough test. And again, Louisville with that offense, they could be a headache for anybody. It's being in that offense. Bobby Petrino's offense. Brom was one of his guys. He's been a coordinator for Petrino a couple of times, a quarterback coach for Petrino. So this is definitely Petrino's offense. It has his hands all over it, prints all over it. But also, Brom is he's always been a modern Petrino in a way. Petrino has his stuff and he kind of stayed, but Brom, he's a great thinker, a great offensive mind, like you said, and he adds his little nuances that when he was at Western Kentucky, they had one of the top offenses in the country, and that's why he got the job at Purdue. And you saw what he was able to do at Purdue. They had some upsets. I remember them being Ohio State when Ohio State was ranked number 1. Couldn't stop them. Brom is a great offensive coordinator. So this is going to be a very interesting game, and Guidry is going to have to be up to the task and the defense. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward. I had this game circled first, obviously for personal reasons, as far as being a coach there for a couple of years and living in Kentucky. So I was looking forward to this game, especially after last year too.
So the history really goes back a long time, and it's amazing how for a school in the middle of Kentucky, Louisville, the connection to Miami is kind of nuts. I mean, you go back to Howard Schnellenberger. He ended up in Louisville after he left Miami. He built that program up, as we all know, before he left there for a cup of coffee at Oklahoma in career decision 2 that he wishes he hadn't made. And then along the way, Charlie Strong, who isn't a Miami guy, but he's a Florida guy, obviously had been to DC at Florida, gets the head coaching job, and he takes Clint Hurt to Louisville with him, the former Miami DT, who was an assistant here under Randy Shannon, and obviously is a Miami guy through and through. And Clint Hurt introduced Louisville to South Florida. And I think there was one point where they had like 30 kids from South Florida on that Louisville team when Charlie Strong was the head coach. And it kind of created a tradition of Louisville coming down to South Florida to recruit. And, now you look at this Louisville team that Miami is going to face. They got Ja'Curry Brooks. Okay. He's a wide receiver. He's their leading receiver. Okay. They got a running back by the name of Isaac Brown, who's their leading rusher, true freshman from Miami Homestead. And they've got a linebacker by the name of Stanquan Clark from Miami Central, who is their leading tackler. So this is South Florida. I'll call it I guess I can't call it Midwest. It's north. I guess we'll just say north. But they are believers at Louisville in taking kids from South Florida that they can get and bringing them up there. And LT, you coached there for a few years, and you recruited the biggest one of them all, Lamar Jackson. And it didn't get any bigger than that for Louisville. So let's start there. Let's transport you back into recruiting for the University of Louisville. And coming down to South Florida, you were the primary recruiter down here to come try to lure kids from down here to go to Louisville. You didn't recruit the ones that were going to Miami. I'm kidding, obviously, but talk a little bit about what your recruiting pitch was when you came down to South Florida to get local kids to go up to Louisville.
Well, first of all, Charlie Strong and Clint Hurt did a marvelous job getting and Tom Jarrett. I throw him in there. He was the AD at the time. As far as getting kids from Florida to feel comfortable about making the trip up there, and what I mean by that, I think he pushed for them to have nonstop flights from South Florida. The airport is right by the school, so that was one of the things that was very important in recruiting parents in South Florida. That was one of my main recruiting pitches. That hey, you can jump on a flight nonstop, straight here, get off, boom, 5-minute taxi cab to the stadium, boom, you're here. And parents, they ate it up because it wasn't like they were making all these stops in Atlanta and Charlotte, and no, it's a straight through flight, and they loved it. You know, Tom Jarrett was very influential in making sure we had South Florida kids. So, and Clint Hurt came down, and Charlie Strong came down, and I can remember being at Northwestern High School and talking to Coach Carmen, who's the track coach. She said, "Lamar, you are the best person for this job. But until we see your head coach come down here like Charlie Strong, it's going to be tough on you." And so I had to bring Petrino through because it's all about, they wanted to see and hear and see him in their presence. And it's all about trust in South Florida as far as recruiting. But, you know, it continued. I was able to get some kids. And when I recruited against Miami, one of the things I looked at, when I don't even know who the head coach was, but I went down their list. I think it was Al Golden. And I went down their list and I said, you know what? I'm going to go after every one of these kids from South Florida because I'm going to let them know that you can't get them all. You know, you can't get them all. They're going to, and at the time, Miami was doing some little trickery stuff where they were holding guys, you know, saying, hey, you're committed, but they were also bringing other guys saying you're, and it was a big deal. And so all I did was kind of cherry pick a couple guys that I knew they weren't happy with the fact they had committed and another guy committed, and I just kind of went after them. But I also ensured them that there were going to be other guys from South Florida up there. There are guys that still live there from South Florida. This is not a place where, you know, when I was talking in the recruiting pitch, this is a place where you can come, you're going to play great football, you're going to get your degree, and you're probably going to stay here because this is a city that has jobs. This is not a little city like Lexington, Kentucky. This is a vibrant city with buildings and corporations and stuff like that. And there are a lot of South Florida guys come up here and they've played and they're still here. And when parents hear that, they go, wow, I didn't know that. And so it was an easy pitch to recruit. And I see why they're still able to get South Florida guys. I know they have a guy on their staff, Hova, who's like a behind the scenes director of recruiting. He does a good job of coming down, getting guys. Obviously they did a good job in the transfer portal, being able to pick, just like SMU, pick some of the guys that left our program. But I'm sure one of the selling points was obviously, you know, the NIL, but also the fact that you're going to be up here with a lot of guys from South Florida, and South Florida guys have come here and been successful.
I think Stephen Field even passed through there at one point,
right.
Who's now one of Mario Cristobal's lead recruiting guys. I've seen the campus. I've been there a few times, obviously, and I've seen the campus in bits and pieces. I've never really walked the entire campus or anything like that. What is appealing from that standpoint? I mean, I didn't get the impression that the facilities were anything outrageous or you know, anything along those lines. And I'm sure it doesn't really compete with what Miami's campus is like, especially today with the whole resort that they've cultivated over there. But, you know, what else is appealing about Louisville?
Well, I mean, they were trying to compete with the ACC in the ACC. Being there for my two seasons there, I mean, they've made massive upgrades to the facility, and they consider their football stadium off campus. So we were able to get full meals off because we were considered off campus. You know, instead of it being like, I think somehow the rules were if you were on campus, you couldn't get this and that. So they were able to kind of finagle the system a little bit. So the facility being considered off campus, we were able to eat in every day in our facility. There's some great things about that university as far as, you know, the school itself. And because every kid, you know, obviously I had to go do some class checks. And a lot of those kids, man, they were actually important in the campus everyday life. I mean, when Lamar Jackson got there, obviously that kind of took it over the top. But there were a lot of Florida kids everywhere. Like it was like, you know, we had kids from St. Thomas, we had kids from Homestead, we had kids from you name it, they were there. And you know, you look at Snellenberg and what he was able to do. There were a lot of Florida kids that were there then to Charlie Strong, Petrino, first and second time. I mean, they've always tried to, and they knew that you're not going to get great players from Kentucky, the state of Kentucky. Let's just get that. And you know, usually they're going to go to Kentucky. Louisville's like their little brother, so they're going to go play in the SEC. Even though they're going to be a doormat at the SEC, they're going to go to SEC. So Louisville came up with another plan and said, "Hey, we'll just go to Florida." And that's how they were able to compete a lot of times with Kentucky, because of the speed that they had and the athletes that they were able to get from Florida.
Well, it all comes together on Saturday when the Florida kids at Louisville are going to be trying to take out, I'm going to say, anger, because listen, Stanquan Clark was, you know, he had flirtation with Miami, you know, and you know it ended up not working out. Ja'Cory Brooks, he could have come to Miami. He went to Alabama, and now he ends up at Louisville. And you know, Brown, their talented freshman running back, was not even recruited by Miami. So they'll all have little chips on their shoulder on Saturday. I'm not sure how big of a deal that will be once kickoff gets there at noon. But there's unquestionably a South Florida tie in there in this game. And why the thing that I've always obviously they have resources there. And I'm sure they have a lot of resources there now. I don't think they have any problem competing in NIL at Louisville.
Horse money.
Horse money, yeah. So, but they've also gone through coaches with a reasonable amount of frequency. The guys, they've had some good coaches there, but nobody that's been able to stay there long term. LT, why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, you think about it. They were in the middle of the road type deal for a long time. You know, Charlie Strong left to go to Texas. That's a no-brainer, as far as money-wise and program-wise. Petrino, he left at one point, but he came back. They had some coaches that, that probably shouldn't have been here. Quithorpe was there for a little bit. But Brom is a guy who they kept courting because he's from Louisville. He's from Louisville.
So with that being said,
yes, and his father is the coach, and all this other stuff. So he's like the prodigal son. So when they finally, the whole thing kind of fell apart at Purdue, it was a no-brainer. Everybody, I knew it was going to be Brom. It was just getting the right money together to get him to come there for a long term. And it's a long-term type deal. It's not, Brom isn't going anywhere. I mean, this is his hometown. He's worked his way up. He was a head coach at Western Kentucky. He's worked his way up to, this is his spot. This is his family. I mean, hell, you look at it, his brother is considered the head coach on game day.
Right.
And he's it's like a family affair. So they courted Jeff Brom, and they finally got their guy, and they were very elated about getting Jeff, and he's done an outstanding job so far.
All right, so let's shift gears to Miami. Louisville obviously is going to likely be a formidable opponent. Let's bring in our cohort IC into the conversation here. Welcome back, IC. How you doing today?
Doing great. What's going on, fellas? How we doing, LT?
Great. I'm getting prepared. See, got the hat, a little cold.
So guys, Miami's had an open week to get ready for this game and work on Miami. And listen, there's a long list of things they can work on. When you're being taken down to the wire by Virginia Tech and Cal, everything is not right. Everything is not perfect. And I think the open week came at the perfect time for this football team because, like, I don't know, like they look so professional to me in Gainesville. Okay, they really showed up prepared for that game, and from start to finish, that was a professional operation. I'm not sure it's looked quite that way since. And I know, I don't really think back to FAMU and Ball State. I don't really count those games. South Florida was a decent outing. But certainly against Virginia Tech, when you factor in all those turnovers, when you factor in all the defensive busts against Cal, we haven't seen the same look that we saw in Gainesville. I'll start with you. Can Miami get it back this week?
Yeah, I think they can. And, that's a great point that you mentioned. Kind of that Gainesville game or the game against the Gators was, their most complete performance, I think, this year, offensively, defensively. Only lapse was that kind of big run, but, that's just kind of a blown assignment. But since that game, you said, hey, Ball State, FAMU, those two ACC games, things look a little rough. So hopefully, like you said, they can get things going back again. They're wearing the same uniforms that they did wear in Gainesville. So hopefully that's some good mojo that they're bringing there. But, I think this bye week, kind of coming at a more crucial time. Those two dogfights, against Virginia Tech, against Cal on the road. Now it's time to, hey, come back to earth. We're humans. We're not this, perfect squad that we thought we were and all these things like that. And another big road test, Louisville could easily be 6-0. Their last 3 games have been one-score games as well. They came out on the bad end of it versus Notre Dame and drawing a blank right now against SMU as well. Virginia game, last week was a close one too. Virginia had the chance at the end, but things didn't go their way. But hey, like I said, this could be a 6-0 team. So I don't think Miami's, underestimating these guys at all. I mean, they lost to them last year, so a bit of incentive for the team to kind of get their get back from that. So hopefully they come out, play a complete game. We see, the offense firing all cylinders, limit those mistakes, and please, 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 I'm begging, limit the big plays because that is something Louisville is really, really good at. One of the best teams in the country, getting those big, gains for touchdowns, 40 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, you name it. So going to be excited to see how this defense, comes out. That's I think what I'll be focused on the most.
Those of you that are watching tonight, if you have any questions or comments on the show, feel free to post them in the chat, and we will be addressing them as we go through the night. LT, you experienced open weeks as both a player and a coach. And, you could probably write a book about open weeks. Does this open week have a lot of value for Miami? And if yes, how?
Well, first of all, like you said, as far as getting healthy, the main key is getting everybody back. You got offensive linemen coming back. You got some other people that are coming back and they're healthier now. That it's big on that. Also, you get those guys, those younger guys, those guys that don't play a lot, some more experience during that week too. You get them out there where you get a good eye on them. You can get good eyes on them, have them going up against the best, seeing how if they've matured any or if they've learned anything, if they've gotten better or worse. It's a good week. Now for coaches, it's long. Even though it's off week, it's still long because you're preparing. You're still preparing and you're trying to also prepare for other games also. So you're getting a lot of work done. Obviously, the players, they come to practice, they get to leave, they get to go to practice, they can go to class, lunch, all that other stuff. No, for coaches, it's a pretty good dig. But
Mario's sending them out recruiting too.
Yeah, and you get to do a lot of recruiting during that time too. So it's for coaches, it's not really off week. It's one of these where it's called off week, but it's a work week. It's an extra work week, put it that way. But for players, it's a good chance. Again, we needed this to be able to get some guys that were maybe a little banged up from those earlier games. You get healthy, you take some time off, you come back, and you're ready. And for guys that maybe have been hurt earlier, they've had that extra week. Now they're coming back to be able to. And on top of that, if let's look at a team like who did we just play? What was that team name? Cal.
Virginia.
Look at Cal. They had the off week. They had the off week, right? So you're able to, at that point, practice some trick plays, some gadget plays that you might not have been able to practice during that short week. Now you're able to practice and you're able to actually sit down and watch the game before and see some of the weaknesses or strengths, and you can explore them until they make the adjustment. And we talked about for years, Gary, we've had defensive coordinators and even Guidry at some point. They didn't make adjustments. You look at the North Carolina game where we didn't make the adjustment, but now he's learned, he's self-scouted himself, and he understands that you have to make adjustments during the game. But that's also having, as they say, the Jimmies and the Joes. You got to have those guys. When you're handcuffed and you don't have those guys, you got a guy last year that's a safety that should have been a linebacker. You can't do much, as far as James Williams. So, now he has some players that he can make those adjustments on the run. They can sit down with him on the sideline or at halftime and make the adjustments. And he's done, so far this year, he's done a good job of making those adjustments.
Now, coming off a game like Cal where his defense broke down a little too much, I got to think having an open week like this is like Christmas to Lance Guidry, because he's got to figure out a new plan, obviously, and either that or he's got to get those kids that were making mistakes up at Berkeley to stop making them in this game, because this offense comes at you a lot harder even than the Cal offense did. Like, they did a nice job over there of having some wrinkles and things like that, but this is, I think, a little bit more of a sophisticated challenge for the defense. LT, would you agree with that?
I think it is. I mean, he has to have his own wrinkles. He can't. Obviously, last year they're going to go off of last year's film too. That's when you play a team and you beat a team the year before, you can't do the same thing. Obviously, it didn't work. So he has to have his own wrinkles to surprise them too. And they're going to try to still exploit some of the stuff that maybe they were able to exploit last year and see if they still work. Who knows? Maybe they didn't go over that stuff last year. So we're going to try to do the same things and see if they do work, because they worked the year before. And it's the same play caller. These are the two. These guys are the same guys. Yeah. So it's that chess match that they're going at it. They're going to go at it again this year.
I mean, this offense really, really well. A lot of the intricacies. Do you get aggressive with it and try to dictate if you're Lance Guidry? Or a lot of people think he should put those safeties and DBs in a little bit more zone and try to protect them a little bit more. I just want to see Lance Guidry be aggressive. I don't think he's effective when he's making things happen. Not too dissimilar than Manny Diaz, by the way. But I don't know that, playing zone an entire game is really his style. I think you have to expect Miami to go after this offense and Tyler Show and try to disrupt their rhythm, so to speak.
Well, if you go after them, in that offense, they have, they're looking for, they're going to always have a fail safe, in that offense. They're going to always have the hot read. They're going to always, these things are built in, they're practiced daily. So, it's one of those things where you're hoping for a pressure, a guy to maybe not be as accurate. You're hoping for, some mistakes. But they have the fail safes in there. If you come after them, they know exactly where they're going and exactly what they're going to try to do. It's just that what you need to do, and what gave us problems when I was at Western Kentucky and Louisville, is when they didn't do what we thought they were going to do. That's when it got a little hectic. They are very thorough in preparing for your defense. It is. I remember I took my dad to the campus and took him in the football office, and he couldn't believe on the walls we had all these sheets drawn of the defense of the next opponent. The whole wall, it was no room left. The wall is just covered with sheets that have to draw your defense, whether first down, second down, third down blitzes, fourth down, formations. All this stuff we had to draw up, and it's so thorough. They're going to put it together, condense it, get the numbers, and try to figure you out. And so They're going over everything you've ever done, whether it's spring practice or the year before. That's how they do it. And so they're trying to find your keys to if you do the same thing, they're going to get you. And they're going to run the same play out of different personnel packages. I mean, it's going to look different with the personnel, but it's going to be the same play. Run over, if you can't stop it, they're going to run it over and over and over again until you stop it. When you stop it, then they're going to go to something else. Now they might even get you and change the personnel again, where you're thinking it's something else, and then it's the same play. That's what they do. I mean, it is a well-oiled machine, and Brom does a great job because he's a modern thinker. He's evolved. And he runs his offense based on his guys that are there. He's not going to run an offense based on if Ryan Mallett was running it at Arkansas. He's going to run it based upon what he has in front of him with those with the quarterback, the running backs, and the receivers and tight ends.
So I see it all sounds a little daunting, man. It's like, I was taking a lot of flack last night on the CaneSport Live show from some of the fans. They think I'm showing too much respect to Louisville, that Miami's just going to walk up there and stomp on them. And I can't bring myself to look at this game any differently because of all the things that LT just talked about. I mean, this is a well thought out, sophisticated offense that features the passing game at a very high level. And that matches up perfectly to where Miami's weak spots are. And I think that this is going to be a yeoman's challenge for the Canes on Saturday. And, what do you think? I mean, you've looked into Louisville a lot this week and have looked at, some of the things. And, I'll make note that as much as we sit here and gush and applaud and talk about their offense, they haven't been great this year. They've struggled at times and their execution of this scheme has not been, I'll say, close to the desired level of what they're shooting for, right, LT? Yeah. So there's a lot of elements to this whole thing. Does it all come together for Louisville on Saturday? But you've looked at their season, I see, and their personnel and things like that. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, no, I feel like what you said on the CaneSport Live thing, it's easy to, come here and say, Miami's going to come out there and, beat Louisville by 20 points, just, walk through there and all that stuff. But sometimes you just have to keep it real. And, this is a team with Jeff Brom, like LT was mentioning, they'll run the same play in 10 different formations and just keep killing you and killing you. We saw that a little bit last year when they played. Obviously, Miami secondary hasn't vastly improved. They looked a little bit better from last year, but they're running some simple stuff that, had guys running into each other and, defense was getting torched on big plays and things like that. And, I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's going to, snap overnight. I think versus California, they gave up 7 or 8 plays over 20 yards. And like I said earlier, Louisville does a great job of, creating big plays for their playmakers, putting their playmakers in good positions to make big plays. And, that's one thing that I'm really concerned about. Obviously, I believe Miami has the guys to contain these guys and, to limit them. But, when you're going against an offensive line like Jeff Brom, like LT said, that's continually to, develop and grow and change his, style of offense to match, what works in this day and age. I feel like that's something that has to be concerning that you can't overlook. And, obviously I'm not, saying, I think Miami's going to lose, but I do think this is going to be another tough challenge. Maybe my mind would be changed if, they handled Virginia Tech or Cal a little bit differently. But, hey, this team has shown that they can get into dogfights and, fight their way out. But Louisville, like I said, is a team that could possibly be 6-0, a close loss to Notre Dame, a close loss to SMU. I'm not, trying to say this is, the best team in the ACC, but this is a very good team, a veteran quarterback who's actually healthy, who won a lot of games for Mario Cristobal during his time, a few weapons, outside at receiver with Ja'Cory Brooks, Bell, and Lacey. I feel like is a guy that's kind of, a little bit slept on in that wide receiver room, number 5, a transfer. I think he can have a great game. Tight ends that they love to use on short situations, sneaking them out. Like this guy schemes it up a lot. And, I think this is a game where Lance Guerzi really has to, make his money. We've seen the last 2 games, things have looked a little bit, shaky on the defensive side of the ball. I think this is kind of a Lance Guerzi game to make a statement, say, hey, this is going to be one of the best offenses we played. This is my time to shine, and kind of slow these guys down. I think it's going to be a real test for sure.
I mean, listen,
and Gary
admitted homers. Yeah.
Gary, and another thing too, their offensive line. I mean, they only have to stop our D line. That's another thing that's a big factor in this game. The fact that with our D line and the rotation and how these guys have been playing, that can affect, even if you call all the great plays, if you can't get the ball off or if you're getting pressure, that's another thing that really hindered us at Louisville, and we had to get better offensive line play because, we can call the right play and things could be set up perfect, but if we get beat on that O-line and O-line like what we have at Miami right now, I mean a D-line like we have at Miami right now, that can destroy all it just destroys your offense. It destroys the timing. It destroys, now your quarterback's moving around. There's not a Lamar Jackson back there, okay? He was a saving grace because he could get out of things in college. This is not Lamar Jackson, so we don't have to worry about that part of it. And that's one of the things that is a saving grace with Guidry. And he hates, every time he says, not a running quarterback, woo! So, that does save us a little bit.
We're all admitted homers. We're not embarrassed to say that we are unconditional Canes. We want to see Miami win every week, but there's no shame in acknowledging a good opponent and one that is going to challenge you. It's a sporting event. It is a game, and you don't get a hall pass to victory 12 Saturdays every fall. You have to earn them, and you often have to earn more of them than you think you're going to have to earn. The Virginia Tech and Cal games that we all thought were going to be cakewalks, and they hardly were. But when you talk to people, the sports handicappers, things like that, they really are looking at this game hard and think that this might be the game that gives Miami the most trouble, and it's for obvious reasons. Therefore, you have to, look at it that way when you're preparing for it. If your coaches, they know Louisville's maybe their toughest game this year. They prepare for these games months in advance. I think if you took a poll, LT, and you've spoken to a lot of the guys of our coaching staff, they would say that Louisville might be their toughest assignment this year.
Yeah, I mean, you got Derek Nicholson, who was there. He was on Louisville staff, so he knows. Right. Also. I mean, it's this is again, the schedule has continuously got every game one step. It's gotten a little harder, and this is something that when I saw the schedule, I said, okay, dang, that's going to be a tough one. But because it's on the road, okay, they beat you last year. Obviously, this was even before I knew about the Virginia Tech and the Cal game. But this is a game where I do feel better knowing that we do have a pass rush that can get to these guys and knock them off a little bit, knock them off their timing a little bit, and maybe force them to throw a lot of quick plays in the beginning of the game and try to get our guys tired out. But what they probably know from watching film is that it's just not 4 guys. It's about 8 guys, 10 guys in that rotation. So you got a lot of trying to get tired guys out there, because that's the one good saving grace about this team, having those D linemen and having a bunch of guys to shuttle in and out, to stay fresh and stop the run, but also rush the passer at the same time.
Mr. Sullivan says that this is the only game Louisville had circled. I think he's being facetious. But listen, when they get their schedule and they see Miami here in the middle of October, hell yeah, they got it circled. Now, I'm not going to say it's the only one. I mean, they play Kentucky too, but they know that Miami is going to be one of the better teams in the country this year. And yeah, I guarantee you that they put an enormous amount of off-season time. LT, as a coach, what does that mean?
Well, it's also big in recruiting. You want to have a great showing against a place where you can kind of butter your bread, which, again, South Florida itself, they've made a living on also recruiting Florida guys. Now, they can't actually recruit with the top tier. They're not going to get the 5-star that we get. But those 3 and 4, maybe 1 or 2 4-stars in there that can develop into those players that become really good players in college. I mean, look at a guy like Elvis Dumerville. He was, you look at his size, I mean, you look at him, so that guy can't play, but he had those long arms. He was small. He ended up being one of the greatest defensive ends playing the game, you know? So they were able to take great athletes from Florida and, you know, develop them and use them the right way. And they know the whole, you know, they know how to put it together. So this is for them as a coach. They're saying also, hey, if we have a good showing or beat these guys, we should be able to get even more recruits, you know, because they got a bunch of, you look at the parent section, it's going to be filled with Florida kids, Florida parents. I mean, so you're going to be, when they go to the airport, it's funny watching, you know, when we played Miami, when I was at Louisville, at the airport, seeing parents, you know, because they know each other. You know, we got kids from Miami, we got kids from Louisville, the parents, they went to school together, Northwestern, all these places, and they're on the flights flying up together, and it was just a fun deal, you know. So this is a big game for Louisville. They've had this game circled, and the fact that now Miami is 6-0, they're ranked high in the top 10, it even adds more value to them trying to go out and get this win.
But tell us what that means. You're in the coaching, you're sitting in the coach's office, your schedule comes out. Mm-hmm. You see Miami, October 19th, if you're a Louisville staffer. See Miami, October 19th, and you take out that Sharpie and you circle it. Okay, for the next 6 months, what does that mean? Again, it's a big deal because, you know, you're thinking down the line is recruiting. You don't know how good they're going to be, but it's a big game for your program, especially what you're trying to get done as far as recruiting. And to be able to say that, hey, you're going to be seen by the same people you played against in high school, or play, you know, that's a big thing to kids. They might not be able to come to Miami. They might have been shunned by Miami, but they can go to a place and maybe try to get some get back. I know when I got the job from Western Kentucky, and I saw that the first game was Miami, I couldn't turn down the job. I could have stayed there with Braun, but I saw Miami the first game. In my thinking, I was like, I'm going to beat their ass. I'm going to knock Al Golden out and try to get him fired because he should have hired me. That's the way I looked at it. So I had to ask the grind. And, you know, obviously Devontae Parker gets hurt like a week before the game, and I wanted to cry. But we still ended up pulling out the game, and we used it in recruiting. And I saw somebody that said, yes, I did send the picture of the Miami fans. That was, and let me tell you a little bit about that. So I sent, when I was working at Louisville, recruiting against Miami, Bobby Petrino came to me and said, press send on this. And it was, which one would you rather play at? It had our packed stadium, and it had Miami with nobody in there, probably a spring game. And I thought about it. Well, I love Miami. I got the tattoo. I got the rings. I got the records. I got all this shit. But guess what? Miami ain't paying my bills right now. And I got a kid, 2 kids, a wife. Hold on now. Shit, let me press in because I like this money too. And I also and Bobby Petrino was standing there making sure you hit. He's standing there looking at me, and he's standing there. I said, doop. I pressed in. I said, well, I guess Miami fans will be mad at me. Shit. But I also about making a date with the devil.
Hey,
oh my God.
Hey, look. Hey, Gary, I also said to myself, okay, how am I going to spend this? And I said, well, maybe the Miami fans will get pissed off and start showing up to the damn game. Said, F. Lamar Thomas. But no, they were hot with me for a while, and I get it. I get it. But I had to do what I had to do too. And that's why when we won the game, I ran across the field and I slapped there. I was the first one. If you look back at that game, I was the first one. I beat Petrino over there. I went over and shook Al Golden's hand and slapped him on the ass and said, you should have hired me, bitch, and kept walking.
Probably should have too, when I think back to who he had coaching the receivers back then.
Good.
So there's a circle there. Okay, the schedules come out. There's a circle around Miami in the Louisville, up and down the Louisville football offices, every room, they got that Miami game circled. What does that mean in terms of preparation? Like, does that mean you're watching Miami film every day, every week, through the whole off season?
No.
Do you prepare harder for Miami than any other team?
No, you can't, because you got to stay focused on the task at hand. It's not like the only time you do something like that when you see an Army, Navy, or Georgia Tech, the old Georgia Tech, where they're running options and stuff like that. You have to practice that once a week. Once a week, you got to have at least one period dedicated to stopping and practicing the option and all that other stuff. But a team like this, you just do scouting. You just stack scouting up. You get the notes. You put them all in a folder, and then when it's game time, well, that game after that, the game before, you bring them out. Whatever you have, and you've had guys beneath you. If you're a position coach, they've been scouting, they've been taking notes, they've been watching some of their film and breaking down film, and it's already broken down. So when the week starts, 2 weeks in advance, you have that film if you want to start watching, and you can. But for the most part, unless you have an off week, you're very focused on what you got to do. Unless you're playing like somebody small like FAMU or Murray State or something like that, then you can kind of look ahead, but you have to stay focused on task.
All right, our special guest tonight was with us earlier this season. Brought the house down a little bit. People said, "Oh man, let's get him back on again." So we thought this week would be a great time to do that. Fasten your seatbelts, though. I promise you that the next 45 minutes or so will be very lively and animated. But here he is, the man himself, Mr. Kelvin Harris.
First off, Gary, my agent is waiting for the Cash App to clear, or else we're going to have to cut this short.
Yeah, I mean, I can't understand how LT got you to come on twice in one season. Jeez.
Well, he's gonna have to cash at me too.
Well, Kelvin, let me ask you this, man. You once your camera starts moving, look like you're on a waterbed over there. You've been able to talk to the beat writers up there and stuff like that. What are they saying? What's going on up in Louisville?
How you say it? Tyler Shuck, I believe that's how you say his name.
Quarterback.
The quarterback.
Yeah.
He's been pretty decent. I saw a stat where he's like 5th in the ACC in passing yards. Ja'Cory Brooks has been really their best receiver. Colin Lacey came over. He's given them something. Don Chaney was the lead back to start the year, but kid from Homestead, I believe his name is Isaac Brown, has come in and he's giving him a little wiggle, and he's taking more snaps over the last couple of weeks. One thing we won't have to worry about is Shuck running a lot, because he's got some mobility, but he's a pocket passer. The biggest problem they're going to have is their offensive line is really shaky. That was the one thing that the beat writer C.L. Brown stressed to me, that they've had some issues with consistency out of the O-line, and I think that's going to be the biggest problem. I expect Ruben Bain to have a multi-sack game. I expect Tyler Barron to be effective. And the defensive tackles, Simeon Barrow, Clark, Messidor, when he's inside, I expect them to get a lot of pressure too. We won't necessarily. I know that Guidry likes to blitz, but I don't think we need to blitz this game.
Interesting.
So with that being said, it will give us extra men in the backside.
Yeah. I think they'll there'll be a lot of bubble screens. I think it's good. They run a lot of hitches, slants, because they're not going to have enough time to go deep. I don't know, Lamar, I don't know if you watched the Virginia game, but Jacoby Brooks was pretty effective that game. He was their biggest weapon. And the Isaac Brown kid, I think he had 100 and some yards rushing. He carried the ball a lot more than Chaney. He's carried the ball about a lot more than Chaney the last couple of weeks. So offensively, I think they can score on us. But their problem, I think, is defensively. Ashton Gelati has not been what I think CL was saying that a lot of the teams have slid the protection to him. But to be honest, with Jalen Rivers coming back and Mawagoa at the other tackle and Markel Bell will still get some playing time, I don't expect they're going to have some problems up front. I think we're going to maul them. And I expect them to blitz. Like I know against Virginia, they got beat on third down a couple times when they tried to blitz, and Virginia caught them. If they do that to us, because we're number one in the country in total offense, we're averaging like 580 yards plus in total offense. And I just saw the stat. Cam Ward is the leading passer in the ACC. He's got 2,200 yards and 20 touchdowns. He leads in both categories. So if I were them, I would probably try and run blitzes on first down, because if they blitz us on third down, they're going to get scorched, and it's going to be a running clock.
Kelvin, you're always the eternal. You're as optimistic as anybody under every single condition. But are we like some of us that, like myself, who are showing
you got PTSD? Yes,
we're showing respect to this Louisville team, and saying like this looks like it could be one of the tougher games of the season. Are we off base? Like, are we seeing things that aren't there?
No, because I think Lamar can tell you better than anybody, because the system that they run is a system that he was a part of at Louisville, at Western Kentucky with Petrino. And look, Jeff Brom is a great play caller and schemer. But if you watch Louisville, our JV team beat them. You know who I'm talking about.
SMU.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Jafari Harvey and
Elijah Roberts. Yeah, I got a call on that. I said they had great games. So if they couldn't block Jafari Harvey, what is Reuben Bain and Tyler Byron going to do to them? Now, I will say this. The kids this week have all said that they need to start the game faster. And if this were any other year, I would say yes, Gary. Respect this team. But two things happened. California happened, and the off week happened. And something I paid attention to was when the kids told the media on Monday that they had a players only meeting. Lamar, how many players only meetings did we have? None.
LT, you with us? He looks distracted over there.
Oh, he might have froze up.
No, he's not frozen. You remember having any player only meetings, Lamar, when you played? He must have turned his sound off or something. His headset stopped working on us.
Man, he looks like Trump from last night. Wow. I'm waiting for him to start dancing. Can you hear?
Secret Service agent Lamar, can you hear us now?
You gotta wave at him. LT. you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, little technical difficulties there, guys.
All right, so
Sorry about
Kelvin
that.
was asking you how many player-only meetings you could remember having when you were at the U.
Oh, players only.
Yeah.
I
None.
mean, before the coaches came in, that's about it. But I mean,
No, I'm
we didn't
talking
have
about where, yeah, we didn't have those. Well, what I said is the fact that they had a players only meeting this week
Mhm.
lets me know that these guys are cognizant of what the goal is. And the goal is something that y'all hear me say every year. Well, not every year. It's different most years. Now this year it's 16-0. And that's what they cognizant of because we're 6-0, ranked 6th in the country, and these guys are having players only meetings. That tells me they understand that it's bigger than just being 6-0. You got it. Yeah, we 6-0, but we ain't 6-0 how we supposed to be 6-0, and that is interesting. And I think they got something to prove against Louisville because remember, this is the game where two guys ran into each other, and the guy scored from 80 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so they got a chip on their shoulder for this game. And you know,
No,
Lamar was just out there today, so
Damn.
he can tell you better than me.
Well, I see, I did a breakdown this week and I looked at every single area of our team and I could identify it and see, you two, Kelvin and Lamar, like I could look at every position on this team and find ways that they could be a lot better. So 6-0, number
Right.
6 in the country, that's all wonderful and good. This team is not even scratching the surface of what it can be. And I mean, it's a good thing because they're 6-0 and number 6 in the country, but not even close to peaking, guys.
Well, let's put it in perspective. Florida, we destroyed them. They go to Tennessee and should have won the game.
Mhm.
If Tennessee beats Alabama this week, I mean, Georgia and Texas. To be honest with you, right now, if I were like one of the pollsters, I would probably have us third in the country. Maybe fourth. Because I still, even though Ohio State lost, they're better than Oregon. So I would have Texas number 1. All right, maybe you go Oregon, Ohio State, and then us. And then Georgia.
That's a Kelvin Harris.
What about Penn
ranking
State?
for sure.
What about
Yeah,
Penn State?
Listen, James Franklin is a habitual leg peer. So he's got 2 on leg games coming.
They should have lost to USC, to be honest.
Yes.
But
He
hey,
will,
So do you think that Ohio State and Penn State game is going to be a big one too, right?
James Franklin will pee on his leg against Ohio State.
I agree.
Jeremiah Smith will have 3 touchdown catches.
Damn.
He just better
And by
not
the
get
way-
an offensive interference when they're going for the game-winning score.
By the
that
way,
was
he's gonna look good in orange and green next year.
Oof, that would be nice, huh? So I see. What's your take on
There
this?
you go.
I mean, are you like me? You see a whole world of improvement this team can make?
yeah, I mean, it starts from the top. Cam Ward said today, I don't know how serious he was when they asked him about his mid-season performance. He simply said mid, which is kind of crazy.
If
But
that's mid, oof.
I'll wait for something. But that's something I love to see. Obviously, like Kelvin said, the 6-0, this team is self-aware that they're not the 6-0 they want to be. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. Nobody's perfect, and to see guys like Restrepo kind of lead the charge because it's his final year, it's Cam Ward's final year. These guys say, "Hey, this is our last year to go out with a bang. This is probably the best Miami team."
To that point, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he's gonna come out with a chip on his shoulder. They ain't even put him on the Biletnikoff Award list.
Yeah, that's
Which is
Wow.
I don't even understand that.
Restrepo's been getting a lot of disrespect for a long time, I think. And
He is so much better than what Lamar was. If we'd have had him instead of Lamar,
He's looking away.
I'm just saying. I
Well,
mean, he's more
I need him.
versatile.
I need him to do well. So I'm going to keep it at that. And he's a hell of a receiver, and he is definitely the leader of that squad. And by the way, after practice, there was a bunch of people who stayed after and caught passes from Cam Ward, and that was very refreshing to
Wow.
see, because again, we're in the mid part of the season, and one of the things that's always drove me crazy is that nobody was staying after practice with previous coaching staffs and stuff like that. They just weren't staying after. It was like as soon as practice was over, they
was out.
hightailing it, they were gone. But now you got guys staying in there working on it. I see the DBs working on things. No coaches. Coaches are gone now. Coaches are going to their meetings. They're going to shower. They're out there working on, and it's only players. They're working on different things. What does it remind you of, Kevin? Us.
My
That's how we
freshman
did
year, watching Michael Irvin go against Benny Blaze and Brian, and yeah, even later on. But the year before you got there, man, let me tell you something. Us red shirt guys, we would stay after just to watch them guys, because Michael Irvin would bring up the wide receivers, and him and Brian Blaze and Brett Perriman and Andre Brown would go up against Donnie Ellis and Bain and Jimmy and Coach Stevens. They all went in. I mean, it was, to his point, it was player led, and he's right. It's been a long time coming. I mean, I think they take. Listen, he's over there every Wednesday, but when I was over there like 2, 3 weeks ago, it's just a different building from before. I mean, I can't put my hand. I know what it is. It's the quarterback. He's got everybody walking around with their chest puffed out. But I saw the same thing he saw, because I ended up getting the practice. First of all, the heck is like a maze now. It's like going to Las Vegas. I mean, it's incredible. So, so by the time I got in there, the first day that I went, I missed practice. But to his point, it was a bunch of them still out there, and it's refreshing. And look, let's just keep it 100. This ain't gonna stop after this year. The foundation is laid. Now, I think Emory Williams, if it was me, I would play Emory Williams a couple of games this year just so he could be ready to go for next year. But I got all, huh?
He still can be out there 3 times and still redshirt.
Well, look, we gonna run 50. Like, he should play against Florida State. We're gonna put 50 on them. So that'll be a good game for him to get some work. He get at least a quarter and a half in against them.
Hey, I got a question. Okay, and we went to look this up, Gary. Does the 3 games count in the playoffs? That's the question I need to know. Yeah, that's what
I know. They can play. They can play in the ACC Championship game, and that doesn't count. But what about
I don't think those count, but I'll double check that. I'll come back with an answer to that down the road here. But
here's something else that's interesting, Gary. We're going to have several recruits who enter school in January, but they'll be able to practice in December, and they will get a chance to get an extra spring practice in. But it's going to be even more important because we're going to be on a run for a championship, and they'll get a chance to see how fall practice is. Even though they can't play, they'll be more adjusted. And I think this is not just for us, but a lot of the teams that are going to, like the teams that make it to the Final Four, this is going to be a huge advantage for them because their incoming freshmen not only get to go through spring practice early, but they get to go through fall practice of next year early as well, because they're going to be in the playoffs and they'll join the team and, go on practicing as if the season is still going on, even though they can't play.
You know, that's a really good point that you're bringing up, Kelvin, because I remember I was at the Under Armour All-American game late December, and there was a lot of guys missing, and people were like, oh, why aren't they here? They said, hey, they're up in college right now. One guy that I can vividly remember that wasn't there was that cornerback from Alabama, number 2, Xavier Brown, who had the game-winning interception. He was at Alabama practicing, you know, during the early bowl game. So that's kind of, you know, obviously not going to say every kid's going to be an instant impact player, but who knows, you know, what practicing with those guys ahead of the big bowl games kind of did for his confidence. And you saw him that big play.
I bring this up because I got a good friend of mine, Pat Nix. His son is one of our linebacker commits, Gavin Nix. And I was telling Gavin, I told Pat first, and I told Gavin, I said, you're going to get a chance. You know, you're not going to be able to play, but you're going to get a ring. And you're going to also get the chance to see how fall practice is going to be. And so when you go to spring practice, you really ain't making no adjustment. It's just, it'll be like, oh, I got the pads on again. And him and all the other linebacker commits and all of the freshman commits are going to be so far ahead of us, Lamar. We didn't have early enrollees back then. Actually, there was one, Willis McGeese.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because if he'd had to take the SAT test, he would have never made it. So Coach Johnson found a loophole and got him in early.
All right, let me ask you guys this. Okay, so we're 6-0, number 6 in the country. Everything's great. The players have their players-only meeting. That tells us that they are focused and they understand they haven't played their best, and they are all in on what they have to do to get better. It's a festival of wonderfulness. I mean, it really is. But there's only a handful of teams every year that make it through a 12-game season without a blemish. It's almost impossible to do.
Who's beating us?
Huh?
Who's going to beat us?
Well, that's going to be my question. So if Miami's not going to, if Miami is not going to get there, and we obviously all hope they do, I want to see if you guys agree with me, and I'm not going to tell you what I think, but what is the greatest likelihood
Syracuse
that would derail, but that could derail this team
Syracuse
in a given game? Well, that's a game. I agree. Syracuse at Louisville, at Syracuse, no argument.
No,
but what do you think would have to happen in that game for this team to not exit this season 12-0?
Wow.
I'll tell you what I think.
Turnovers.
Okay. So like,
well, I agree with turnovers, but it would have to be multiple, like 4 fumbles, because I don't see Cam Ward having another multiple interception game after California. I think now.
Or after Virginia Tech too. He had 3 against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, but the California game, let me tell you something. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders have what I call a mild case of Aaron Rodgers disease. And what is that? That is, I am extremely talented, and I'm just going to take a shot every play. Yeah, I know they're in 3 deep, and the safety is like 40 yards. I can still put that ball in there. And what happened at California is, I think the most important play of our season was when he threw the pick across the field for the pick 6. That's when I think it started to set in like, hey, I'm going to have to take what they're giving me. And then once he did that and we scored, he realized, oh, they can't stop me. And so now I think he's more cognizant of Aaron Rodgers disease, and then I saw Shedeur do the same thing against Kansas State. If he throws the ball in the middle of the field to the tight end, they win that ball game because it gets him in field goal range, and they got a 50-50 shot. Because Mata, he's got a little stubby leg man disease, and he might not have made it, but they would have had an attempt. And if you recall, after he threw that pick, and Lamar, we talked about this. The fact that Mario and Dawson didn't say a word to him is when I knew everybody drinking the Kool-Aid over there. Because I was expecting some yelling, some type of emotion.
Yes.
They just like, he just came over there and said, "My bad." And they were like, "Okay." And this is Mario we talking about.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I give those guys so much credit because they've had to adjust themselves. I mean, you look at the way we're playing offense, and I call it improvisational offense. That's not how Shannon Dawson learned it and drew it up. You know,
Well, remember what the narrative was last year? That Mario was controlling Dawson and all he wants to do is run the football. We averaged 585 yards total offense, and we tossed that ball around more than anybody in the country. And Mario is sitting over there like a man at Tootsie's, happier than anybody.
well, you know, he talked about it after the game, and he said that, you know, Cam Ward, you can't micromanage Cam Ward. You have to let him be what he is, or he's not going to be that guy. But he does have to rein in the turnovers, guys. I'll harp on this all day. It's the turnovers that he has a propensity to make that could be the one thing that derails this season, even with all the spectacular stuff that he's doing. To me, that's the key to the second half of the season.
Yeah, but I think you need to understand that he's cognizant of that. We're basically looking at, ride with me on this analogy. We're looking at a Kobe-like individual. And some games, yeah, he's going to shoot too much, but then he'll go back and watch the film and say, "Oh, I need to get a ball to Artest a little bit more." Or, "Man, I need to get in the lane and dish that thing to Horry and let him shoot some." You know what I'm saying? Or, "Man, we need to just put it down with Powell a little bit more." He's cognizant. And in that game, he made an adjustment that a lot of players can't make. Like, I didn't see Shador make that adjustment last Saturday. He made an adjustment after he threw that pick. And I think that adjustment, he's going to still have slight cases of Aaron Rodgers syndrome, but I think he's cognizant of how to get out of it.
Well, I can tell you this, guys.
And then he also has Xavier Restrepo to throw to.
Yes, I can tell you this, guys. That 2-minute drill today was very sharp, and I saw probably the greatest 6-yard pass I've ever seen in my life. He was looking downfield, and he threw the ball to the back. That between chest high, between the guard and the center, like in between them, just a dart. Like I said, how did that happen? Like most quarterbacks got to throw it over, but it was a little window, and he threw it right between and hit the guy, and he ran for yards and get us in field goal range. And you know, I've never seen that before. I've never seen that throw. I mean, literally, he just sat there and just. I mean, the window had to be about this big, maybe this big, but he got it between there and hit the guy, and he got more yards. We called timeout. Field goal.
You know what's funny? I was talking to one of my homeboys, my partner Goo. That's what we call him, Goo. His name's Hinton Battle. He went to Florida State. Him and Dion are cousins, and he was there with he was there in the 80s when we was, you know, taking it to their ass. And he brought this up. He said he reminded me of Charlie Ward. And I was like, yes, with a better arm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Charlie Ward was a good player.
Charlie Ward, yeah. He's so smooth like Charlie Ward, but he has a better arm. I mean, I think, and he's just as mobile. He's a little bigger, but he's so calm. I mean, we're witnessing greatness. I'm be honest with you. This reminds me of watching Mike my freshman year. Watching Jerome when I was a recruit. Bo Jackson. I mean, he is putting on that type of show.
So is that why that's why every road game that we're probably going to have is going to be sold out?
Yeah. And think about this. He's got the entire country doing that old crazy thing he do.
Celebration.
High school, college, and pro. Everybody's doing that old whatever that
League.
is. Yeah.
35 and older league.
And let me tell you something, Gary. Me and him talked about this. We are getting that late 80s, early 90s hate. That old school hate. We're back.
Yeah. LT, you played with Marino. Okay. Now, obviously, different type of different type of quarterback, obviously. But he could do things nobody else could do. He had that greatness. But he never won it all. He never
had receivers like Lamar.
Like what what does it take for a great player like this to will his team to get to the finish line?
Well, first of all, he does have the confidence, but what's going to will him to it is obviously those guys making plays. He has a complement of guys that he feels like he can trust. You know, Restrepo. You know, you got number 11, Brown Jr. Brown. You got 2 Horton. You know, you got 3. You know, you got some weapons. You got tight ends. You got backs. You got an O-line. I mean, this is the formula for greatness. I mean, you know, that's what it's about. I mean, look, Gino, he had guys around him. When you have guys around you, it makes it easier. I mean, you know, obviously Gino wasn't a runner and couldn't run like Cam, but he was able to use those guys, use us in a way to win games. So he has the formula. His job is just not to, as we talked about earlier, you know, the interceptions, trying to do too much, you know. And I think the second half he realized, oh, wait a minute. After that last pick, wait a minute. Let me just calm down and do what I'm supposed to do and let the game come to me. You can't win the game. You can't win the Heisman on every pass. You got to take what they give you, and it will open up things for later, because that's what happened. He started hitting the guys, and then all of a sudden, at the end, we started throwing that thing deep. He was hitting seams because they were preparing for the short stuff, and they were tired.
Yeah. I tell you, the key to this whole team, though, this whole season, is Lance Guidry. From a defensive standpoint, I think he's done a great job of halftime adjustments 3 weeks in a row. And we're going to see gimmicks and schemes the rest of the year. I think Louisville, he's probably got as big a chip on his shoulder as the players do after what happened last year with Braun. Because, you know, and then you look down the road, yeah, I would have to say it would be turnovers, because you look down the road. All right, so we got Wake Forest, Florida State, Duke, Syracuse,
Georgia Tech,
and Georgia Tech.
Don't forget about Georgia Tech. That's going to be a
Georgia Tech is probably, from an offensive standpoint, Georgia Tech or Syracuse will be the toughest of those teams we have left. But defensively, hey man, they DBs, hey, they got a bunch of Travis Smiths on deep at corner. So I just got to be honest with you. Nobody left on our schedule other than when we play Clemson in the ACC Championship matches up with us.
If we don't turn the football over.
Right.
How many fumbles do we have this year outside of the one that Cam had?
Not many.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think we have any.
either.
No.
So think about this. Fletcher doesn't fumble. Martinez doesn't fumble. Jordan Lyle doesn't fumble. So our running backs don't fumble. And our quarterback's only thrown 4 picks? 4 picks?
5, I think, right? Or
5, 6, 5.
So we have 6 turnovers in 6 games. That's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. Look, let's just be honest. We got PTSD. Gary, look, you've gone out on 15 straight dates.
Yep.
Yeah, she said she's your girlfriend, and then they found out that she's been sleeping with Bruce. So you meet this girl, and it's so perfect, but you are looking around for Bruce because you know Bruce because every other girl has slept with Bruce. So you expect this one to sleep with Bruce, but this is the one.
This is the story of IC's life.
I'm the Bruce in this story. Just kidding, guys.
Hey, Sergeant Major had a question. He was curious to think what is the return of Rivers? What does that bring us? Return of Rivers.
Oh man, listen. Markel Bell is going to be a good player next year. He had a good. He didn't play bad, but he ain't Jalen Rivers. Jalen Rivers is a future Pro Bowler.
Wow.
You know what's funny? Me and Lou were talking about this at the '89 reunion thing, and we actually talked about this in the summertime at the in the spring when we had the alumni reunion thing. And he feels like Jalen Rivers could be a Pro Bowl center because he plays all 5 positions.
Yeah.
Now, I was like, Louis, 6'5", 335. There are no 6'5", 335-pound centers. And he's like, yeah, I know, but he has the flexibility and the agility to do it. And actually, Mario agrees with him. He says he could play center if we needed him to. And he's played every position. He played both tackles and both guards. He started at all 4 positions. Center's the only thing he hasn't started at.
You know what I'd like to see? I'm sorry, Lamar. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so when he's back in there, what is the offensive line? What does it read? I mean, how does it read from left to right?
It will be Rivers, McCoy, Carpenter, Big Grinch, and Mauro Gore.
And then how do they play Jalen Rivers? How do they play Jalen if the big the number 70? What's his name? The big kid.
Markel Bell. He would probably get a couple. No, he would probably get a couple series to spell Jalen Rivers.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming that they're probably they don't want to just ease him all the way, just throw him all the way out into the deep end. I think that they're going to give Bell a couple of series so that he, doesn't get rusty. But to be honest with you, I think that in the second half of this game, I think we'll be able to play all our guys in the fourth quarter. I think I think Louisville is going to throw the kitchen sink at us the first half. Yeah. And that's why I say Guidry is the most important person, because every week offenses are going to go off tendency against us, and it's going to take a quarter and a half defensively to figure out what they're doing. And that's the thing that he's done the last 3 weeks. Because if you notice, when we get to the fourth quarter, people don't score on us.
Mm-hmm. You know what I would love to see? You'll probably think I'm nuts, but to get us ready for December, I want to see the offensive line win a game for us. I really do. I think it's going to get tougher when the competition gets tougher, and we're going to have to be able to get physical with people and pound the rock at times. And I would love to see the offensive line have to win a game for us here along the way with their physicality.
I think we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball, but we got Jordan back there, man. So you want to be Dean Smith. That's who you want to be, huh? You just want to be Dean Smith.
Hey, Jordan had Pippen, man. Jordan had he didn't do it all by himself. When he was by himself, he was scoring 60 a game. The Bulls didn't win anything.
Cam Ward got Restrepo. But to your
I'd like
point,
to see more guys. With all respect, LT's my guy. I mean, and I'll admit to that. But like, Restrepo does not have to obliterate the record book and make LT and Michael Irvin and all these guys look like big players in Miami football lore. I'd like to see a lot more of these guys.
well, they throw the ball to Jacoby George and Horton and Sam Brown too, now.
But I
And
mean,
what about
if this goes on like this, it's going to look like Lamar never even played.
Well, to be honest with you, Horace was our best receiver. And then Darryl Spencer.
Wow.
He's sick of it. He's sick of it.
No, but Gary,
Those guys are really good players. Really good players.
No, but Gary, you're right. There's a chance at some point we're going to have to run the football, but we can. That's the point I'm making. It's just that, okay, the way our offense is set up, they basically adjust to what the team is doing. So let's just say Louisville comes out and says, we're just not going to let you bomb us like it's Hiroshima. So they playing 2 high safeties, and they got 7 in the box.
They're doubling Restrepo a lot.
We're going to run the ball down their throats.
That's what I want to see. I want to see that happen here in the regular season, so that when we have to do it, when we're playing Texas, for example, or Oregon, or teams that have better players on the other side of the ball that can match up with our guys, that we have another way to win ball games. I'm thinking big picture, man. I think this team could be really, really good.
Like I said, I've seen everyone play this year, and there's a hierarchy of teams. Oh, we just lost Gary. Oh, there you go. It's us, it's Ohio State, it's Oregon, Texas, Georgia. And then underneath and then I'll say Clemson is 6. And then Alabama and Tennessee, and maybe Penn State. So there's maybe like 8 teams that can win the national championship. And then there's everybody else. Because if you look at the SEC, it's Texas and Georgia. And then Alabama and Tennessee are right underneath them. And then who else is there? Missouri, trash. LSU, they don't like their coach, and they got it's just some issues there. But I think there's going to be 5 SEC teams. So you got Missouri and LSU, I think, and Oklahoma. Well, now Oklahoma's out. I think Missouri and LSU are competing for that 5th spot. And then when you look at the Big Ten, it's Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State.
Indiana is looking like something.
You know what? I would
Indiana.
not be. Indiana doesn't go 10-2. I think Indiana can make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Big 12. I want to say something, and y'all gonna think I'm a homer because that's my homeboy. But let me tell you something.
Don't say it.
Colorado got a chance to make the playoffs. They're gonna probably be favored in all of the games they got left, because Oklahoma State's the biggest disappointment, and if they could keep their receivers healthy, they got a chance to see Kansas State again in the Big 12 championship game. And if they play them again, they're going to beat Kansas State. And I think there's only going to be 2 teams from the Big 12.
It's always going to come back to Colorado because of Deion. And in case you guys don't know, you guys are viewing, Kelvin Harris was Deion's Jerry Curl spray bottle holder when they were growing up. And so, in Fort Myers. So that's what Kelvin is famous for. And so, yeah.
Listen.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Lamar has hatred for Dion because when they played the Falcons, Dion pressed him all the way into the bench and sat him down, and he didn't play any more of that game. So that's just, but if we're talking about the 12-team playoff, Gary, I don't see how we don't make the Final Four.
Well, here's a question I have. What about the teams in our conference like Pitt and SMU and, they're pretty good teams.
Pitt, let me tell you something. I've been watching them. They're not bad. Now they beat California by 2 points at home. They just have been playing good, solid football. The kid Holstein that transferred from Alabama, he's been looking pretty good. I don't know. I think they play Clemson, and that's going to be an interesting game. I just still think it's going to be us and Clemson in the ACC Championship game. We're the two best teams.
So when we get there, and I agree with you, I expect us to get there. Would you agree with my thought that you better be able to win games in multiple ways? Because now you're dealing with better athletes, you're dealing with better coaches, you're dealing with better teams. They are going to take away what you do best. They're going to have the capability to do that. And for me, these next 6 games, I want to see some of these other things develop and get us ready for December.
I think here's the thing that Clemson is going to have a problem with. They're going to try and stop the run first. And that's going to leave them susceptible to getting bombed like human human because their secondary is young and unproven. But they got some good athletes. If you just go on athletes alone, it's a push game because I like their defensive line. Peter Woods and TJ Parker, 2 very good young sophomore players. And Trey Williams has been around since Dabo was in his 2nd year, and he's playing good. He's big. They got some talent. Woodaz, the linebacker, is good.
Huh? I know, from Tampa.
Yeah. But depth-wise, we're deeper than them. Now, on offense, I'm going to say this. I've always liked Phil Maffa. Phil Maffa is basically Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher. And the biggest difference that's helped Clemson go on this run is, I'm not being racist when I say this, but this is a fact. He stopped playing them white wideouts, and he started playing TJ Moore and Brian Westcott. Sorry, Gary. I call it as I see it.
Hey,
when they played Georgia,
Restrepo's white.
Restrepo's not white. He's Spanish or something. He's something.
And he played at Deerfield Beach. He ain't white. Hell no.
Yeah. Listen, when they played Georgia, they had Wesco and TJ Moore on the bench, and Antonio Williams was still recovering. And Georgia just laid the wood to them. If they play Georgia right now, it would be a push because Dabo finally had to let go of the offense, and he let Garrett Riley do what he brought him in to do. And I think that would be a great matchup, Garrett Riley against Lance Guidry. But I just don't think their offensive line is physical enough to force their will on us. I think in the lines we have an advantage, not a big one, but a slight one. And I think that would be because it would be a close game. That would not be a blowout. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a ratings bonanza for ESPN.
I see.
Hey, there's a question. There's a question that John Brown asked, and I just wanted to go to it. It said, when it happens, if Miami, SMU, and Clemson win out, how's that work?
I think they take the 2 highest rated teams. Is that right, Gary?
I think that's correct. Yeah, I'm going to double check that.
I,
But yeah,
actually, I think that's how all of the conferences work now because they don't have divisions anymore.
Hmm.
So,
So
Gary,
there's
do they still do that little show where on Tuesdays now? Is that going to come back in a couple of weeks?
you talking about our show?
No, the Tuesday show at the BCS or whatever it's called now.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if they'll. I would think they would have a rating show.
Because those are the actual college football things. Right now, they're just going off the AP poll. Yeah, I'm not sure when they bring that back.
So here's the tiebreaker. Let me tell you guys real quick what the tiebreaker is. I just pulled it up. Okay, the teams with the 2 best winning percentages will play in Charlotte. Now, in case of a 2-team tie for the 2nd best winning percentage, the first move is to turn the head-to-head competition with the winner of that game holding the advantage. If there was no head-to-head competition, the next determinant is winning percentage against all common opponents. Then it becomes all common opponents with the added caveat of order of finish in the conference, beginning with the highest seed of common opponents. It starts getting real complicated if you keep going down their set of criteria. But the first move is head-to-head competition, and then the second would be winning percentage against the common opponents.
Well, that could be interesting because us, Clemson, and SMU don't play each other.
Yep. Listen, we can't lose. You can't lose.
Yep. Yeah, can't lose.
Can't lose.
Can't lose.
It's crazy that you got to go 12-0, but the way this season is shaping up, and SMU is probably going to drop a game somewhere along the way, and Pitt will. I mean, these teams aren't going. Everyone's not going undefeated in the ACC, and there's some crossover games where they play each other here in the second half. I don't have everyone's schedule in front of me, but I know they play each other at different points and stuff. It's going to work itself out. But if you're Miami, you just got to win, and not let it come down to that with a team that's this good.
Well, I'll be honest.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead, Lamar.
I was just about to say, if the 2 teams playing the ACC Championship, let's say there's 3 teams undefeated. 2 teams playing the ACC Championship. Does that 3rd team get into the playoffs?
100%.
Do they get rest and get in the playoffs?
Yeah.
That's the question.
I think
they might have to play a higher seed, but
how do you leave an undefeated team out of the playoff? I don't think they would.
So if Florida State,
I think
a team that was undefeated gets into the playoffs this year.
More teams.
Yeah. Listen, I think that the conference that's lowest on the pecking order right now is the Big 12. I think if us and Clemson continue to play, we'll be the 2 in the championship game. But there's a good chance SMU can go 10-2.
Yeah, they wouldn't make the playoff 10-2. All those SEC teams are going to get the benefit of the doubt long before a 10-2 ACC team.
There's no way we're only going to have 2 teams. We're going to have at least 3 teams. 4 teams is pushing it, but there'll be 3 teams. If SMU is 10-2, because I'm going to say something.
I don't think
SMU got oil money, and that means they got people behind the scenes who are influential and who just ain't gonna sit back and let you just stick it to them.
Yeah, they don't have oil money like Texas and Georgia and.
Whoa. Yes, they do. SMU is the richest school in our conference. It's not even close. You seem to forget that SMU was the first and only team to get the death penalty. There's a reason for that.
And came back.
Yeah. Also, remember this, Gary. They're going 9 years without taking a single dollar of TV money. They raised $330 million in 4 weeks after they joined the ACC.
I know.
Yes.
And Rhett Lashlee is rapidly emerging as a coaching star. Like, he really is.
But here's the beautiful thing. They're going to keep him because he's at a Power 4 school that's got gobbles of money in a major metropolitan city. in a recruiting hotbed. The only school I think that he would leave them for would be Arkansas, because that's his home state school.
So he's got to go.
And they got
At
Walmart.
Stanford. He's going at Stanford, at Duke. Those will be 2 victories, I would think. Then he's playing Pittsburgh at home.
That's a toss-up.
Yeah. Boston College at home, at Virginia, and then Cal at home. I mean, SMU. I mean, if they go undefeated, I wouldn't be shocked.
They're what are they, 6-1 right? 5-1 right now?
Yeah, they're only lost.
Right. They lost one. I'm sorry. My bad. So if they go 11-1, I wouldn't be shocked.
They go 11-1, they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, their loss was to BYU, which obviously was not a conference game.
Yeah, but BYU is making the playoffs.
They're playing pretty good.
But I don't know. I don't know that a 2-loss SMU team makes the playoffs. I don't think they would personally, but
They're not just. There's going to be at least 3 teams from the ACC. Right now, us and Clemson, and then look up Pitt's final games. Let's see what their record, what they got left.
Also, I think the SEC is going to start shooting itself in the foot because everybody has to play everybody.
Exactly. This week, you're going to start seeing them eat their own young.
So Tennessee's going to, if they lose to Alabama, that's one, or vice versa. It's just they all play each other.
I think when it's all said and done, Texas has a good chance of coming out unscathed. But let's look at this. If Texas beats Georgia this week, Georgia's got 2 losses. Whoever loses out of Alabama and Tennessee has 2 losses. And both, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tennessee, Alabama, both have to play LSU. So, one of them could end up with 3 losses. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a 3-loss SEC team in the playoffs. But we're going to have
2-loss.
That would be horrible. About a 2-loss? I hope they don't do that.
What about a 2-loss? What about a 2-loss Ohio State? Because they squeeze in. If they lose to Penn State, a 2-loss Ohio State.
Well, let me see. You got Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. Who else is good in the Big Ten?
Michigan's garbage.
Yeah, Michigan won't make it.
Michigan State is garbage.
So Pittsburgh.
So now you ask yourself, can a 2-loss? Well, no, wait a minute. A 3-loss Michigan team, because I don't see them beating Ohio State.
No.
Hey, so Pittsburgh, bringing it back to the ACC here for a minute, they got to play Syracuse at home. Then they're at SMU.
That's a toss-up.
Virginia, they play Clemson at home. Then they're at Louisville. We'll see what kind of football Louisville's playing late in the year, and then Boston College. So
don't sleep on Boston College.
That quarterback.
And Bill O'Brien, he might be a prick of a person, but he's not a bad coach, not a bad schemer.
Yeah.
So these last 6 weeks are going to be interesting, but I really do believe we're going to come through undefeated.
Have to.
Kevin, you have been saying this. You have been saying this for years. Yeah, you have said this for years. And I have every time said, what are you thinking, bro? Don't say that. But there's a chance. Now
we got Black Chiefs playing for us, man.
Oh man, you crazy, man. You crazy. There is a chance.
Hey, listen, we might pull the full trifecta: ACC Championship, national title, Heisman Trophy winner. Number one.
Hey, man. What do you think I see? You're being very quiet up there. What do you think of all this?
I'm trying to break down the math because that SMU Clemson thing. Because so say at the end of the day, Miami's undefeated, Clemson is 11-1.
Pitt. You mean Pitt? Probably Pitt. Well, somebody. SMU has already lost a game, so I don't want to be them. They lost to BYU.
I think Pitt's gonna lose 2 games.
I think Pitt, but it could be 12-0 Miami, 11-1 Clemson, 11-1 SMU. That's like, what do you do at that point?
Wow, wouldn't it be ironic if we play SMU and the our JV team in the ACC Championship game?
Yeah.
Well, you can't forget about Manny Diaz coming to town, guys. Can't forget about Manny Diaz and Duke.
We're gonna put 50 on Duke. That's the bell. That's what I call the Cuban coffee bowl.
Hey, Kelvin, before we let you go, Mr. Trill here, he wants to know who you think the best running back on the team is.
Mark Fletcher.
Looks good, man.
He's looked very good.
He really does.
Yeah.
He just, you would think that he's slimmed up, but he still runs hard. He runs power.
Yeah. But I don't think you have to increase his reps. He hasn't made it through a season healthy in several years, going back to high school.
He's 230 pounds, though. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But I think people are kind of disrespecting Martinez.
They are. But, he's got to bust out. I mean, he's a 6-yard a carry back who's only averaging 4.3 right now. He's got to have one of those.
But
games.
I can tell you this. When he catches the ball on one of those Cam Ward pitches, he's very special.
Yes, he is.
He's always around. He's very special on that.
I tell you what, I like what they do with Chris Johnson. He puts a lot of pressure on defenses when they run him into that, what I call that old Leonard Conley formation. Remember they used to do that when Coach Erickson first got there, run Leonard Conley like that out there to the flat. Because you're talking about a guy that runs 10-100 meters, 10-100 meters. And if he gets to the curve, but Jordan Lyle, let's not sleep on him.
No, you can't. So how do you evolve from the couple plays that Chris Johnson goes in the game, he's getting the ball? How do you evolve past that and give him enough reps where he's not getting the ball to where people got to play it honest?
Well, what's setting up is they're going to run him to the flat and throw up the seam to Arroyo.
I think we did
that. Arroyo.
Yeah, we haven't really even discussed Arroyo, but hey, he's made himself some money.
Yeah, and he could do so much more than what he's done too. I mean, that's kind of along the lines of what I'm talking about. I would like to see Arroyo become as important to this offense as Restrepo. That would make us a much better team in December.
Yeah, but we got so many weapons.
We got to use them.
But that's the point. It's like teams are coming into. I think our game plan is going to be to see what the other team tries to take away from us, and we'll just, it's what I call check with me offense. So let's just say Louisville decides we're not letting Restrepo beat us. Isaiah Horton beats you. What's his name? Arroyo beats you. Oh, and we throwing it to the back in the flat. So then the next game, they said, well, we're not letting Arroyo beat us. Then Restrepo beats you. So now we're going to take out Arroyo and Restrepo. But then Sam Brown, Horton.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I would like to see this team get to in the second half of the season. But when we get there, Kelvin, when we get there, we're ready for December.
We're there now, Gary.
Oh, shit.
I don't know, man. Your guys' former quarterback came on this show last week, and he said he was there at Cal's in the press box, and he said he's sitting there, and he knew where the ball was going.
And so did Cal, and how'd that turn out?
Well, Cal apparently didn't. He was Restrepo on that 77-yard pass. He was so open on that play. Oh my god!
Oh my god!
understand how you leave. Like, I've had conversations with guys who coach, and I actually had this conversation with Lamar. Today's players are the dumbest sons of bitches out. I mean, we're at the 6-yard line. His best receiver is Restrepo. He ain't beating me. Anybody else can beat me. He ain't beating me. Yet somehow they managed to leave it wide open.
Oh my God. I don't
Thank
know.
God.
Lamar was never that wide open.
Well, you know what?
Once.
I was having a conversation with Damian Lewis and actually Sapp about this too. We were having a conversation about the Heisman. And they were like, hey, it's Travis Hunter's to lose. And I said, in theory, I agree with you. But if I were playing Colorado the last 6 games, I would not throw to Travis Hunter's side, and I would double team him. So if we lose, it's because them other dudes beat us. And I said, that's how it used to be. Like, we come out and Lamar 2 weeks in a row has 8 catches, 150 yards, and a couple touchdowns. Well, the team is saying Lamar is not beating him. We're going to bracket him. We're going to double team us. AC's going to have to beat us. Ooh. Okay, Coleman Bell's going to have to beat us. But we're not letting Lamar beat us.
Hey, Kelvin, you're being called out a little bit here. Before we really let you go. Honey IV says that somebody needs to tell you that there cannot mathematically be 50 teams in the playoffs. So everybody can't make the playoffs. There's only going to be 12, and at least 3 of them are going to come from the SEC.
So let's go over it. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee.
Tennessee is not good. I don't think they're getting there.
I'll say those 4 right there for sure from SEC. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon.
That's 7.
That's 7. Miami, Clemson.
That's 9.
Kansas
Boise
State.
Boise State.
You got
And
to
Boise.
5.
And you already said BYU's making the playoff.
No, wait a
So
minute. BYU is in. What conference is BYU in?
Big 12.
BYU and Kansas State.
What about Boise State? They're going to
What
take
conference?
SMU. You forgot about
They're gonna
SMU.
take
You
Tennessee.
said SMU's going to make the playoff because they got all that oil money.
they're
No,
gonna take
but
Tennessee out.
no, there's gonna be 4, 3, 4. So that's 8, 11. Oh yeah. Ooh, somebody's gonna get cheated.
Yeah.
Because Boise State is gonna probably be the group of 5 representative, right?
Or one of the Army Navies because they're killing everybody.
Let's
The
not
Army
forget those
Navy
guys.
undefeated.
So
Oh my God,
is
that would
Boise?
be hell.
What if Army finishes 12-0?
Well, you know what? Army actually throws the ball this year.
They both do, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
Derek Jenkins said, "What about Notre Dame?"
Oh, God.
They've lost one
hectic,
game,
man.
right?
It's gonna be hectic. Huh?
They lost one game already, right?
Yeah, to Northern Illinois.
IU. They lost to IU. Northern Illinois.
So they got to play Clemson too, don't they?
I don't know who's on their schedule.
They still got to play FSU. That's a slaughter. They'll beat FSU, but I think they got to play Clemson. I mean, for us,
all right, Kevin.
I think there's going to be 3 teams from the ACC. We'll be one of them. I think Clemson will be the other one, and then Penn and SMU will battle it out for that 3rd spot.
Hey, one of the viewers said Kelvin is doing Chinese arithmetic, and another one said Kelvin thinks Florida State will make it too.
Hey, Florida State couldn't beat Tallahassee Lincoln right now.
Hey, homeboy, we definitely appreciate you coming on and making IC feel at home with another Fort Myers guy. And appreciate you coming on. You are definitely entertaining, and you make
Hey, did you
the
lose your
time go
lights, man?
by.
Did you lose your lights?
Oh no, everybody was chilling. That was like a little rainstorm.
Oh man, we lost lights for like 5 days.
What? Everybody was A-okay.
Well, that's the crazy part about it. There was no flood or nothing. It's just the wind, the wind, I guess, in this complex. But the people on the beach took it on the chin, though. Yeah.
I
All the
see you at
gear.
the beach. He lives on the beach, so no, you
Oh,
live on the beach. No, you live on the
no.
beach. That's right. You live close to the water.
All the Garys live on the beach.
Well, we appreciate you, my man, and I'll call you later, man.
Yeah, I thought Mike
Appreciate it.
Irvin was going to be on. That's what I was hyped for.
Hey, we
I
didn't
wanted
want
to
we didn't
heckle
want
him.
to. Well, we'll get him on soon. You'll get the heckling.
Yeah. He owes me a rematch for my weekend money.
All right, my
All
brother.
right, Kelvin, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon. He's such a piece of work. Hey, LT, somewhere over in the last hour of the Kelvin Harris show, the subject came up about Louisville's defense is going to take chances on Saturday. And we haven't talked about the guy that calls the shots for the Louisville defense, and that's a guy named Ron English. You're familiar with him, and he does have a reputation for gambling a lot. And if he feels outmanned by Miami, which he may, and I see you chime in on this because you've looked hard at this Louisville defense, but he probably will take a lot of chances and will blitz a lot.
Well, I think he doesn't really have the horses on defense, linebackers, the DBs to play a lot of conservative defense because he can get exploited. Those guys can get exploited. So he will take some chances. He's been known to take chances. 2 years ago when he was 2 years or 3 years ago at Purdue, when they were playing Syracuse on national TV, he went a zero blitz on fourth and 24. I think they were on the 25-yard line, and Arondé Gadsden's son beat him on a post corner to win the ball game with no time left on the clock. So he will take some chances. He will try to light you up, but you just got to be prepared for it. And I don't think they will. I think they'll try to be conservative, but if you're conservative against this offense, Cam will pick you apart. So he's going to have to take some chances. And when he does take those chances, I think Miami will be prepared and ready, especially with getting the offensive lineman back. That shores up the protection a little bit. Having those running backs, and most importantly, having those tight ends.
Yeah.
And Cam's shown, right? I see that he's willing to go to the checkdowns.
Yeah, no, I forgot somebody mentioned in that second half he made that adjustment, and it really kind of started to open things up a little bit. But kind of what I want to touch on with Ron English, last year's Miami team that is nowhere near how good this team was offensively, put up 31 points on them, and we're a couple yards away from potentially tying up, and then a couple slips up in that game. So I think Miami's offense is going to have a day against this Louisville defense. I think I looked it up. I think the last 4 FBS quarterbacks have thrown for over 275 passing yards versus them. The only quarterback that hasn't really torched them was Riley Leonard, and he's like a poor man's Tim Tebow. So that's one thing there. So I think Cam Ward is going to, be very, very effective. And another thing that I saw is quarterback runs have been very, very effective against this defense. The guy at Virginia, the quarterback, I think his first 2 carries went for 13 and 20 yards. Jennings at SMU ran for about 85 yards. Riley Leonard ran for a good amount of yards. Granted, those are a lot of, quarterback design runs, but I do think Cam can buy some time in the pocket, scamper, because, we talked about, I think last week, he looks slow, but he's moving, past people. And I think if he gets into a situation where he has to tuck in and run, this defense has shown they're vulnerable, in that aspect. And, just listening to their conferences and listening to Coach Braun talk and listen to, that defensive lineman, I don't know how to say his name, number 9. They're all about, we have to contain Cam in the pocket. We have to force him to pass it pocket. We can't let him go out. If you give him time in the pocket, he's gonna tear you up. It's not like he's a guy that has to scramble around every single play. So I think this is going to be offense is going to have issues. The thing I'm worried about is just slowing down that Louisville defense or offense. And Coach Guidry said his only goal is to outscore the defense, and do that, they win the game. So let's see what he can do come Saturday.
That's the big question. Will it be a shootout? The other one I have is, do you expose the franchise to the hits of design running plays by the quarterback, even though Louisville's defense has shown that it's susceptible to that?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We find another way to
Game 7.
Find a way.
It's game 7. It's not game 16.
Hey man, we find a way to figure something else out. We don't expose the guy to too much. We keep it in the short yardage, because you don't want a scenario like Cal had, where their quarterback played a decent game, or actually a good game, but got hit. And those last 3 passes he threw were probably the worst passes of the game, because he got hit. When they get hit, and they get hit hard, it does something to them. So they become a little gun shy and a little off balance, and he wasn't as accurate as he had been that whole game. So, you don't want your quarterback to take too many big blows like that.
All right, I see. Before we let you go, parting thoughts as Miami heads to Louisville.
Parting thoughts: if Guidry comes out of this game with a great game plan and slows down that offense, I'm giving him a blank check with his name on it, saying, "Welcome to the club, brother." But in all seriousness, I think I do think this is going to be another close game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Miami's offense is going to outlast them. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Hopefully, Coach Guidry, you're watching this. You're probably not watching this. You're probably tuned in watching that Brom offense. Hopefully, that defense comes out. I hope, like Gary says, your best when you're playing aggressive. Send the house. Expose this Louisville, offense for what they actually are. I don't know what they actually are, because they're pretty good, but just excited to see if this defense could hold up, and excited to see some new wrinkles in that offense as well.
All right, I see. Well, we'll see what happens.
All right, I see.
Thank you, guys.
See you later, my friend.
Thanks for being part of the show once again. Izubee Charles, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so LT, you coached at Louisville. I think the fact that this is a noon game is huge for Miami. I've been in that stadium for night games. It can get pretty electric up there at the Ville, under the lights for sure. You've coached obviously in day games and night games in that stadium. How hard of a place is it to play? How big of a factor is it that this is a 12 noon game?
That's a good point, Gary, bringing up the 12 noon game. They've had some electric environments as far as night games. Florida State, when they had Jameis Winston, and we almost pulled that one out. I mean, Clemson, where they won on the last seconds. I mean, you're right. Noon game up there, it kind of evens it up a little bit. The thing that I always worry about with Florida players, if it's under 70 degrees, they're gonna have on a lot of stuff. I'm telling you. Watch. And by the second half, it's going to at 12:30. By 1:30, they're gonna be stripping down, getting naked. Okay, but I guarantee in the beginning, watch how many white sleeves you see in the beginning of the game, and it's only 60. Was it supposed to be 68, maybe 70?
Oh man, I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm looking like tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's 40 degrees.
I'm talking
10 a.m. when they actually are walking out into the stadium, it's 46 degrees.
That's what I'm talking about.
At noon, it's 54 degrees tomorrow in Louisville. So it doesn't hit 60 till 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Man, it's going to be a little chilly up there tomorrow. Now Friday.
A little nippy. That's why I'm wearing the hat, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, they don't have Saturday yet, but it's very similar. Like, high noon, it's 60 degrees. It'll be 60 degrees on Saturday at kickoff.
So with that being said, that'll be interesting for the Florida players, for our guys. You're gonna be wrapped up. I mean, hell, I've been there. I've been wrapped up and looking at the other team. I'm like, aren't y'all cold? Man, it's 60 degrees. It ain't cold at all. Like, dang, and I got on all this stuff. So it's gonna be very interesting for. But I think by the second half they'll shed all that stuff and they'll look different. They'll look different.
All right, let's play a little word association to wrap things up tonight.
All right.
Let's start with Jeff Brom.
Great offensive mind. Great person. I was telling you before we came on air, when we left to go to when Bobby Petrino told me that I was going with him to Louisville. I asked him who else was going, and he told me, I don't think Jeff is going, but I think Jeff probably going to try to grab this job. So I walked over to the AD's office, and I had a conversation with the AD about Jeff Brom, and basically told him that he is the man for the job. He'll do a great job. He's different than Petrino. He's a player's coach. He was a player. You know, he's easy to get along with. He's a very great offensive mind. And when I left that office, before I left that office, the AD told me he appreciated the conversation, and he appreciated my, me coming to bat for Jeff Brown. I think the world of him. I think he's a great coach. But this Saturday, he can't be great. He can't be great this Saturday. He can't be great this Saturday. Not this Saturday.
My man Cesar Iglesias says I was going to show up in flip flops and Tommy Bahamas and my cane and my cane glasses. You think I should take these on the trip, LT? He's not lying though. I got to think about what I pack. No doubt about it. All right. University of Louisville. You were there.
Dear in my heart. My daughter was born there, so dear to my heart. Great opportunity, great place. It's more than a college town. It's a city that has a lot to offer the kids, and it has a great South Florida connection as far as kids going to school up there. The kids that obviously Miami doesn't want, they get the second tier kids. So they've done a great job of getting those guys. And actually this weekend they are celebrating, from what I heard, Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh wow.
They're celebrating him. Yeah. So it's an alumni weekend. And I think they're gonna retire Teddy's or honor him in some way. So they got their own little game plan as far as getting people in the seats. But it's a nice place, man. It's a really good place, and it's like a second Florida team. It's you can add them to the list. If Florida State ain't crap this year, you can add them to our list.
Let's go Lance Guidry.
This is a good game for him. This is a real big game. I know I've been circled because, you felt like last year, the offense, the defense had it, the game was on the line for them. And, it didn't go well. They played well, but it didn't go well. So he's been looking forward to it. He's probably been self-scouting himself. And I think he's ready. Talking to him today, he's going to throw some new wrinkles at him. And, hey, he feels good about it. He feels good. He feels great about, the D-line. He feels great about the back end because that D-line is going to be humming. So it's going to be hard for them to run the football. And it's going to be definitely hard for them to throw the football. So, maybe look for some tip interceptions, some tip balls, because quarterback's going to be a little woozy after a while. I expect Bain to have a great game. I really do. This will be his coming out game. I mean, last week against Cal, that fourth quarter, he was unstoppable. So it's probably just going to carry over to this game. It's going to be good weather. He ain't going to get tired now. It's going to be great weather. So they're going to be humming all game long. Can't wait to watch.
All right, we got a couple more for Lamar, but before we get to those, let's take one final look at CaneSport. Whoa, I hit the wrong button, LT.
You hit the wrong one, Gary.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at canesware.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
All right, let's do hats. Hats that you can buy at CaneSport. Go ahead, LT.
Yeah, hats. Look at this. Look, we got all these hats here. They got new hats. They got all this stuff. Look at these hats, man. Great hats. Get your CaneSport here. I need to give it to one of my. They had the guy in the comments, this Eric Gallagher guy, Ohio State fan. I need to go ahead and buy him one or two of them. Hey, if you're going up there, stop on by. Look at these sweaters they got. Get your nice, cool
It's a nice one.
Sweater here. Boom. That's a nice sweater. Look at this. The nice sweaters going here. Boom. I mean, you got jerseys. Look at these jerseys. They got the look at this. That's kind of cool. Look at that. The orange rain. Got a lot of good stuff, man. Look at this. I like the coach. You got to get you one. You got to feel when you feel. If you want to be a coach, you want to feel like a coach, look like a coach. You got to get you a couple of these. This is what the coaches wear right here. We got them. Look at this. Look at this. This is what the coaches wear. This Jason Taylor wears stuff like this. He cuts the sleeves off and puts sweat all over himself. But that's another story. But yeah, you got to come on by here. Come on, get some of this gear. We got all kind of gear. Look at this. This is a nice sweater too. Last sweater before I show you my favorite. Right, there you go. Look at this hoodie. But this is my favorite right here. If you're going up, get you one of these right here. Look at this. Yeah, look at that. I love this. This is like a little vest action here. Ooh, I love this thing right here. Play golf.
Yeah, we're talking like literally anything that you would want that has the U logo on it. They got for you at CaneSware, all different sizes, men, women, kids, babies. They got stuff for your pets. And as you see, they even have gear for the Dolphins, the Panthers, Inter Miami Soccer. So get on over to CaneSware if you live locally at 2655 South University Drive in Davie. You could shop them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year at canesware.com. It's 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. You can hit them before a home game. Did La Spada feed you tonight, Lamar?
Yes, they did. There you go, right here. Let's see. Where's my sub?
Let's give La Spada the shout out
right there.
Best subs.
My ham and cheese.
Yep. There you go.
There you go.
Best subs in South Florida, so you can get your food for your tailgate and load up on gear at the same time. Hey, next week before the Florida State game. Game's not till 7:00. Great time to go visit CaneSware. All right. Let's go with Ron English.
Ron English, defensive coordinator that likes to take chances. I really think that he must have some naked pictures on Brian Brown. I mean, on the Browns, because it just doesn't fit. Him being a defensive coordinator with Brown, I mean, he takes so many chances that, you know, he's put Purdue when they were at Purdue in some bad predicaments. He's even put Louisville in some bad predicaments. But you also got to have the Jimmies and the Joes, and I don't think they have the right Jimmies and the Joes. So he's going to have some problems I'm hoping he's going to have some problems on Saturday with this offense. I think that for us, with the offensive line being whole again, being able to run the football, I don't think they can stand up to. They don't have the massive defensive linemen like an SEC team, so we should be able to push them around a little bit, you know, and maybe open up some holes. And I expect the running game to do well this game. I really do.
And that's all going to be in the hands of Shannon Dawson.
Shannon Dawson, big game for Shannon because, you know, this is an opportunity for the University of Miami to really show their offensive dominance. You know, you think about this game coming down between it's going to come down between who puts up the most points. You know, Jeff Brown, offensive genius. Shannon Dawson, offensive genius. Okay, who's going to put up the most points? I mean, it's very simple. This is elementary. Who's going to score the most points? And he has a great opportunity because I think we have the better defense to be able to hang with their offense. I don't know if Louisville has, just my opinion, I don't think they have the defense to be able to neutralize the University of Miami's offense. Too many weapons.
Yeah, this game's going to be all about Miami stopping Louisville and not getting into a shootout that goes deep into the fourth quarter. That would not be a great thing. Let's finish it off with Mario Cristobal. Seems to be pushing all the right buttons, Lamar.
Well, you said you don't want it to go to the fourth quarter, but I think the last two games will help you have confidence in that fourth quarter, you know, because we've talked about this many times before that 2 years ago, last year, we don't win those two games. There's no way we win those last two games. And so I think what they've been able to do now, Coach Cristobal, with this team is have them believe with that quarterback It's big. It's huge because they haven't shown that they. I was on the sideline, and I hear them. They don't, even against like USF, when the USF was, still competing. It was never give up. It was never give up. Nothing. No flinch. And watch them against Cal. Watch them against Virginia Tech. Those last drives, there's no flinch. They just went about their business, did what they were supposed to do, and Mario is pushing all the right buttons, like you said. And just listening to him today, again, it's about, hey, these next 72 hours are big. These are big. This is big for you. So prepare yourself, do what you're supposed to do. And so when you get there, we're ready to play. And that's his message. Do what you're supposed to do and prepare yourself for when we get there. Those 72 hours are big. So I think just listening to him, I mean, I think he's learned on the run. Like last year, that speech was different. This speech is more about, hey guys, we've given you everything you need. We believe in you just like you believe in us. Let's go do what we're supposed to do.
Let's look professional the way we looked in Gainesville. That's what I'd like to see this week. All right, I'll tell you. So we got to thank Kelvin, of course. Thank IC for being part of the show. Thank CaneSport for once again sponsoring the show. I think we're both headed up to the Ville this week, so that be an interesting road trip. And I'm anxious to see how the Canes respond to this challenge that I do think Louisville presents because of the things that they can do on the offensive side of the football in particular. And when you gamble as much as Ron English does on defense, you don't know when he might hit one or two here or there that might slow you down a little bit. So we'll see what happens. Huge game. And we will be back next Wednesday night to talk about it. So for Izubee and Lamar, I'm Gary. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everybody. We will see you next time.
Go Canes.